could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Yeah, and times are changing everywhere. Do we dream and do we dare? It's up to you, the door is open wide. Feel the rhythm of today, learn the part and join the play. The world is here, let's take it for a ride. You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Larger, larger than, bigger, bigger than, living hopes and dreams. Every boy and girl, higher, higher than, brighter, brighter than, all you wanted, and you know. You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You can have all you ever wanted. You know you could.
Good morning, and welcome back to the channel, Grand Columbia, and welcome to another Coffee Time Live. Excuse me. So, we got a lot to go over today. Kind of a lot of little bites, and not a huge topic, but things people ask me about. It was planned for this week to talk about real life medical experiences. By Turtle, as a matter of fact, is in the chat. Some of you may remember, mentioned it, broke his leg and his foot and his elbow and his all kinds of things all over his body. And he's been a wreck, and he's had to be in and out of the hospital. And we were talking about doing it today, but I was down in Pijao making videos, and got back late, and I was exhausted, and he re-injured his foot. He had to go back to the hospital, so we've put it off to hopefully next week. Although I've got another place I'm going to this coming week, Hanover, to do another video. Never done one down there. So today I got a lot of little things, but I think you'll enjoy them. Let's see. What are we going to start with? We're going to start with the weather. As you can see, a little blue sky, but very overcast. Kind of like you see every week. Let's see. What do we have here? Rob, good morning from Fort Lauderdale. How you doing? See you back home where you belong. And Turtle, man, I wouldn't want to go through what you're going through. Juka, greetings from Finland. Welcome back, and as always, thank you. Early morning contribution. And while we're at it, Mr. Anonymous, A.K. Jerry, thank you very much. I appreciate it. That was, you must have done that one like 2 o'clock in the morning. And Mike Jarvis from way down south, how you doing? I sent him on a wild goose chase. I found this thing that looked too good to be true, and he checked it out, and he got back to me and said, yeah, it's kind of too good to be true. Sorry, that's somebody new. Well, welcome. Sorry. Good morning. Okay, so let's get started on these things. All right, first I have an announcement that I think is going to be important to some people. It's not a big deal, but as you know, I've been shilling for Heymondo travel insurance. I had their link in my down below these videos, the, just above comment section. What do you call that? Whatever that area is. I put camera information, things like that. Well, they've changed their policies, and so now I no longer I deleted the link. It's not that they're a great company. I have no problem with that. But they've changed their policies so that their new rules don't really apply to 99% of the people who watch my videos. So what's the purpose? If well, the details don't matter, but if it's like a 1 month policy or 1 month, not less than, but a month, then you have to be 49 years old. You can't be older. And then a 3 month policy, which is the one you'd have to get 2 or 3 months. There's other restrictions. I don't know what the hell it is, but it doesn't matter. I'm no longer going to promote them or talk about them. I didn't much anyway, but it was great at first because some of you used them, and I got comments back. They're a great price, and how they appreciated me, letting them know about it. And now I'm just getting emails about they won't accept me. They won't accept me. I've got 2 or 3 emails just in the last week or so. So I looked, see they have new policies, and so I'm done with them. Audio and video, good. Thank you, Ron. Ron to the Z. Thank you. I appreciate it. So no more travel insurance recommendations. And last week I did a few comments. I left this one out. You have the best intro ever. It makes me excited to visit Armenia. So thank you. Appreciate that. That really surprised me because that intro I just kind of slapped together and threw some pictures in, and there wasn't really much rhyme or reason to it. All it is filler, to take up the time, because things can be problematic. Why do you see on YouTube, if you watch live videos, you'll always see some sort of lead in, at least 30 seconds, sometimes 3, 4, 5 minutes. Well, why do they do that? Why don't they just start at the time to start? Because it's not reliable enough to do that. So you could dive in and then you end up late start. That's actually happened in the past for me. So I said, well, let me take a clue from all these professionals out there, and I threw together, I try to make them about 2 minutes long, and then if I run into a problem, I have at least the opportunity to get it fixed, which happens sometimes, and I'm scrambling, I'm rushing around, trying to beat that clock to get everything going. But so that's why. What else we got here? Was asked about the camera, and I will mention it. This is the one that I loved. It served me well. I've done so many videos on it because it can be kind of discreet, like so. Most people don't, it doesn't register with them. It's a video. So I'm able to go in places where they would normally say, no, you can't do a video. Because that's a thing in Colombia. So it was broken, and I won't go through the details, but I managed to get it working, and it's working, but it's kind of hit and miss. So I had some clips in this last round that just didn't fly. So I'm going to have to do a replacement. I will say that you know, it was a temporary fix. I don't have any way to really, you know, actually repair it, or I don't even know what the hell was causing the problem. So the next camera, I'm pretty set on this one. Whoop. Where is it? Where is it? Where? There. It's a new camera. Insta360's been around for a long time. Some people use them for their videos, but they're kind of silly because they give that round effect. Everything's distorted. But they've come out with one called the Go 3 that doesn't do that unless you set it to do that. So it's a 360 camera if you set it to do that, but you can change the settings and it can just be a vlogging camera. What's good about it is it's really tiny. It's great quality, really tiny. I've talked to a couple people that I know that are actually professional YouTubers, as in they've been doing it for 10 plus years and they made millions of dollars off it. And both of them tried this camera and bought this camera. So that'll be my next one. And it's even reasonably priced. The action kit is $414, free shipping in the US. The standalone, which then you've got to go and buy the accessories and it would cost more because there's certain accessories you have to have with it. But if you're just replacing the camera or having a second one to go with the accessories, it's $379 on the website. But if you look on Amazon, it's $399. I thought that was kind of interesting. It's cheaper to buy it from them directly. So to those that ask, and I'm asked about equipment and software quite a bit. I think it's probably boring for most people, but you know, I try to address whatever people ask. Sorry, I'm not new. I used to watch you last time I was asking for information to travel to Cali, which is your favorite city. Bogota was pretty boring to me. Yeah, Bogota, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Bogota. Although it does have the area that's large area around the U.S. Embassy is a pretty happening place. It's very modern. It's more expensive. It's upscale, but it has some door after door after door as you're walking down the street. It'd be these great restaurants, and there's, you know, it's an interesting place. It's relatively safe for Bogota. So Bogota is cold, not for me. It can be, particularly at night when it's windy. It's that bone chilling, rip through you kind of cold that can be pretty miserable. And Amazon Prime is coming up this week. Maybe your camera will be on sale. I have no idea. I'm not ready. I'm saving for that. So as I get these contributions, so as I receive them, it'll probably be 3 or 4 months by the time I've got enough saved for it. I just, I'm asked about that, and so that's the information on it. Now, I did go to Pijao, right here. Bienvenidos a Pijao. So that's the entrance of about a 12-kilometer road that took me a couple hours to traverse. It's the only road really going into Pijao, and it's a disaster, and I'll talk about that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do this video differently, and sadly, it requires editing. But I've got a number of stories that I'm actually going to narrate as I show video clips and photos and things of what was going on. And I got, I think, every clip except one, which is a shame. I'll talk about the road repair and the rain and everything that's been going on. I'll talk about my dog protectors. It's kind of an interesting story. Food shortage. I'll discuss that. Two girls circling. It might bring a smile to you. One mosquito. That'll be another story. And then conversation with Luz. Now, while I was there, nobody spoke English, as is typical. And I had two conversations that were extended conversations. One was at the coffee shop. I did videos in Pijao 3-4 years ago, maybe. And I went to the coffee shop and I returned, and the owner served me. And there's quite a story about him, and I'm thinking about making a separate video just to talk about him, his coffee farm, and his coffee. He's quite famous in France and in South Korea. But I bought one. It's good coffee. I still prefer my Sorrento coffee, but this is pretty damn good. And so while I was there, I had probably a 10-minute conversation with him. I got a lot of it on camera, but I'm going to try to edit most of it out because I'm self-conscious about my bad Spanish. But it was pretty neat for me because he had no problem with it. But he spent a year in the U.S. many, many years ago. And so maybe the accent doesn't throw him like it does with some people, but we had a good conversation. And then Luz, who is the owner of the place I stayed, which is really a traditional building, although it did have a hot water shower, so that was pretty cool. And she's made the bed comfortable. She's set it up as a booking.com thing to try to earn some money in this building that she's got. And it's still a work in process, but it's pretty nice actually, and it's a good location. So we talked a little bit, and it was hit or miss. We weren't clicking in my conversation when I first got there. I think part of that was there was a mix up in how she's able to get paid, and I was running a little late to get somewhere. So I think it might have been on me. But the next morning, she made me a breakfast. And, I don't want to tell the story because I'm going to tell it during the video. But it was pretty entertaining for me. But we talked for about 45 minutes. That's the longest solely Spanish conversation with somebody who doesn't know a word of English. 45 minutes is the longest I've done. I didn't get any of that on video, but it was pretty interesting. It was pretty eye-opening. We talked a lot about Pijao and how it changed from pre-COVID to now. And it was pretty evident to me, a lot of changes there. So that video it will come out tomorrow if I was really good at editing, but it's probably going to be later in the week. And I did lose some clips, but I've got enough to do what I need to do. I just wish I had a couple of those clips from two girls circling. I don't have any, but I'll still tell a story. Do you know if IKEA has opened in Bogota? No idea. No idea about IKEA. Not as touristy as Salento or Finlandia. No, not at all. Very few people actually get there. It's really out of the way. It's not only out of the way geographically, but there's no easy way. The road is horrendous. So, all right. Now, got some news topics to go over. Sound like Robert Kennedy. That poor guy. You want to listen to him, but it's so difficult. He's got some kind of disease that causes his vocal cords to spasm. and he talks through that. A lot of people that have that just stop talking, so give him credit for that. Mark, how you doing? Good morning. Love it here in Armenia. Hope we get together soon, finally. I am free. Free falling. Let's see. Maybe tomorrow. Tuesday for sure. I'm free Tuesday. And that real estate guy, he wants to get some coffee too, so maybe we can combine, do it at the same time. Okay. We've been trying to get together for about 4 weeks. Let's do some news. All right, first one. Security and I can speak. Security and tranquility. In Candio, there's no presence of criminal groups or dissidents. Now, what the hell are they talking about? Does that mean there's no crime? No, that's not what they're saying. They're talking about gangs, criminal gangs. And you might say, well, wait a minute. You've done some news in the past where they'd arrest 14 people in this gang and this. Exactly. You may remember going back at least a year, somewhere between 1 and 2 years ago, I talked about how the mayor of Armenia had worked a deal with the national government, and he got 100 extra policemen to work in Armenia. Not forever, but for a period of time. It was for the sole purpose of weeding out various gangs that do extortion, and it's all committed with the local population, primarily in the south or in Kalarka. And they've done a great job. It's like every other week there would be some other group. It might be only 3 or 4 people. It might be 18 people, but they've done all I could think of is Elliot Ness, they really worked it out. And when they say dissidents, they're talking about, some of these larger groups like the FARC or ELN or something like that. And Candio is essentially clean of those things. There's still criminals here, and there might be criminals that work together. But as far as gangs with names that maybe even funded by Mexico or things like that, they've been cleaned out as of now. Now, it wasn't the mayor that said that. He invited in the National Army to do an independent audit of what he's been doing and what the effects were. And they were here for, I believe, a couple months, and just kind of going through everything and traveling around and whatever it is they do. And they made an announcement this week that is right there. So that's pretty cool. I tell you, I love this mayor. Sadly, I think this October will. I don't think he can serve beyond this October, which really kind of sucks. But okay, what else is in the news? More than 95,000 people will benefit from the new emergency mental health and hospitalization areas. Okay, that, it really bugs me. 95,000 people, what does that mean? I think it's just something they say. But here's the nuts and bolts. There's 2 public hospitals. One's in the south, one's in the north. And if you've been here and you visited here, you look at that hospital on the outside and you say, oh, it's old and kind of run down looking. Inside, it's been, well equipped and well run, but it's the building that they've had for a long time. Well, they're still not doing anything about that. Although they did change up how you access it, and out in the road, it used to have this, well, it doesn't matter. They've done some infrastructure in front of the hospital to make access easier. But basically, what this article is talking about is they've just dumped a ton of money into upgrading, remodeling inside the hospital, new hospital beds, state of the art, a lot of new equipment, new CT equipment, CAT scan, things like that. They've had, but this is like all new state of the art stuff that they're bringing into that hospital. Now, it doesn't affect me. It's the big public hospital. But if you have insurance, you kind of have your own place to go, your own private hospital. They call them clinics. But as I've said before, it's kind of a misnomer. Like the one that I would go to, I did a video in once and walked around. It's like 8 or 9 stories, and it's got its own radiology department. It's got everything a hospital would have, except it's just for the people in my insurance group. And so you have a bunch of those. Some will service 2 or 3 insurance companies. Some will be 1, depending on the size and what deals they make. So there's a good chance I would never set foot into that public hospital, but it's awesome that they're doing that. It's I've got a doctor friend and a couple nurse friends who work out of there. One works out of there all the time. One works out of there on and off, and the other one goes in to visit patients. And they all tell me that, that some of the equipment's just fallen behind. So that's pretty cool. And what do they do when it falls behind? Well, what they were doing is sending a lot of them off to the clinics to get the work done. Okay, we can do, thanks. Okay, Mark, that sounds good. NB90, Buenos Dias, Coleman, Rio Negro, Colombia. Welcome back. Well, I know you were here last week too. All right, so been here in Armenia for a few days. The people here are the friendliest I've ever met. Well, you know, the slogan of the city is amable. You know, they're friendly people. And they're known throughout Colombia. Armenia is known among Colombians all over the country. If you were to ask, they might say that their city is, or Pueblo or whatever, is the friendliest. But then the second one would be Armenia. It's just known for that. So I don't know if this is good news or bad news, but you guys are, it's brought up to me fairly often about the U.S. has travel warnings, travel advisories for kidnapping and things like that in Colombia. And I explain it's only certain areas of Colombia and areas you would never really want to or need to go. But there was one right here. It was Sergeant Karina Ramirez, a woman soldier, and her two children and her dog Sky, Cielo. They were in a vehicle traveling to another town, and the ELN, this group, and that's them there with their faces covered and their flags in the background, kidnapped them and held them for 2 or 3 days. Kind of what happened to my ex-wife. Held her at gunpoint. Well, they held, you know, this woman, her 2 kids, and that dog, gorgeous dog, golden retriever, held them, and then let them go. Now, why am I talking about this? Because you would never be in that situation unless you were just a bonehead. Let me show you the map. You look on the map here, if you can make it out, that's on the Venezuelan border. I mean, it's like just like a couple miles off of the Venezuelan border. And there's hardly anything there. There's certainly nothing you need to go see. And that's where it occurred. And this all happened within a few miles. The ELN live along the Venezuelan border. And north of there, and north of Cucuta, which you can't see, but you can look this up on Google Maps afterwards if you want. Look at Cucuta, and north of there for quite a distance is where the ELN mostly exists, but they're also down in this area. So if you can just imagine a narrow strip that 5 or 10 miles along the border, that's where they exist. All I could say is don't go there. There's no reason to go there, but those things will happen in those areas. And my last news item before I get to my actual topic is another Petro item. Our favorite president. President Petro will not be able to assume the regulation of prices in public services. A few weeks back, I mentioned this as a news article that he was trying to basically take over control of these public utilities. And Colombian government, which is far more than just being president, said, no, you can't do that. It's not legal. You don't have the power. Sorry. Gotta love it. Hello from Cerritos. Beautiful day today. Well, it's always beautiful. Even when it rains, it's beautiful here. Hola from Brussels, Belgium. We'll be in Armenia first week of September. Oh, Renee, how you doing? Nice. Nice. Why is everybody coming to Armenia? I get blamed for my videos, but I don't. If anything, I tell people, go to Manizales. Go to Manizales. I like Armenia, but I'm telling you that 9 people out of 10 would probably prefer Manizales because it is the most awesome city on the planet. But anyway, hey, you're welcome to come here. We'll have a coffee or something. But now we're going to talk about meat. It's inflation doesn't seem to be dropping very much. No, it's not dropping. It's not dropping at all. It's slowed down quite a bit. The beginning of this year, it was just, it's like every day it seemed to be climbing. And it seems to be stabilized somewhat. Agua. So, where can you find good meat if I want to cook it in the house? We talked about restaurants, but you can't always eat out in a restaurant. And sometimes you want to get a good steak. And I think what prompted the questions were maybe the 4th of July barbecue and specifically where can I get a good tomahawk or where can I get a good ribeye? So I'm going to tell you about one that I can't tell you it's great. I've been told that. I was put onto them by somebody that I know, and I did order, but I won't see it until Monday or Tuesday. So let me just start playing this. So this is a place, it's called Tomahawk. You can, if you type in Tomahawk, Colombia, you'll find this. And if you can't find it, let me know. I should have posted a link up here and it didn't occur to me. So you go to this website and it's got some information things, and that one right there is kind of interesting because if you're here and you want to order doneness, they don't do, rare, medium rare, medium, and medium well, and well done, and those aren't terms that they use, and they don't use them in Spanish the same way. For example, the first one is azul, blue, which you would think would be just flat out raw. It's not, but it's pretty close. They have their own, and to get medium rare, you really kind of need to order medium. there's nothing between the azul and medium. There's nothing between there. And so I explained to them, medium, but a little less so. But a lot of sous vide is used here. And so it's like it's going to be done perfectly for what the category is, but there really isn't much variation to it unless you just want to cook it more. So they'll sous vide it and then they'll throw it on the grill for the crust. That's not everywhere, but that happens. I've noticed that happening a lot. So they've got a lot of categories here. You can get chicken and sausages and pork, and there's a lot of condiments as it's showing there. I don't know why you would order those long distance. I certainly wouldn't order these arepas. You can just get them in the store, but delivery is easy and either cheap or free. So I went on here and I went to the beef, and they had tomahawk. This website is all Colombian beef, but it's the high quality Colombian beef, supposedly. And I've had high quality Colombian beef before, and it was amazing. But it is hard to find high quality Colombian beef in restaurants, and it's impossible to find it in the supermarkets. But as you can see here, there's a tomahawk, and you've got T-bones. That's another nice thing. They've got cuts that you're familiar with, because in Colombia, they don't actually have a cut for T-bone or tomahawk or ribeye. There are other names, and they're cut differently. When I say differently, you can take a ribeye and you can attach it to something else and then call that a type of cut. So not ribeye alone, but the adjoining cut, and it's combined. So anyway, some here are by the kilo, some by the pound. So I ordered a T-bone and I ordered ribeye, and it's free delivery. Comes to my door. I wrote to them in WhatsApp and they responded like that, because I was a little confused about how it's shipping. It just wasn't very clear to me the way the websites work here. So they got a WhatsApp, and somebody was right on it, and he says, "Oh, it's no problem. It'll come right to your door." He looked at my address. I thought they didn't come to Armenia because it wasn't one of the selections. So you manually enter that, and they put it in a styrofoam container. They're vacuum packed. They freeze it. They pack it with ice or dry ice or something, and then they ship it to you, and you receive it within a day or two. It's only on the road for 1 or 2 days, depending on where you are. So that was, that was pretty cool. Let's see. I think Nexigo had a decent meat to cook at home sometimes, and sometimes they'll carry Angus. When they do, it's usually it's rarely going to be anything like a steak. What do you call it? Oh, what's that cut? Having a brain freeze. Very popular cut in South America, picanha. They'll usually have that. Chicago, not sure what that is. Brazilian cut is hard to find in USA. Hard to find here too. I've never seen it. What you see here is Colombian, Argentinian, and U.S. Angus. U.S. Angus is very popular, but it's pretty expensive. Last time I ordered from them cost me 100,000 pesos, so 20 some dollars, and then said they don't deliver in my area and never returned my money. Nice. Real nice. Well, maybe I'll have that kind of story. But I did check with them firsthand, and he explained, and once he explained, I figured it out, and it's supposedly on its way, so we'll see. There's a butcher shop store walk up the street from where I live. I'll show you when we go. There's butcher shops, but they don't understand the cuts and they never stock ribeye. Plus, when you get the ribeye, at least here in Armenia, there's no marbling to it, and so it's tough as hell. It's really chewy. It's really tough because they do a lot of grass fed, and grass fed gives you tougher meat, different flavor. You can get used to the flavor, or you like the flavor already. I mean, but if you don't like the flavor, you get used to the flavor, is what I'm saying. But it's tougher meat. So I know butcher shops. I know them. I've been to many of them trying to seek out what I was after and just come up dry, because the thing is, they're there to make a profit, and you can't make a profit with expensive products that people pretty much won't buy from you except an occasional person now and then. So they buy the cheaper stuff. USDA Angus is not a level. I realize that. It's a type. Yeah, I know that. I never said it was otherwise. I'm aware of that. However, because of the type of cow it is, and they're entirely raised for the steaks, for the meat. Generally, when you get Angus, if you get an Angus, it's going to be a good quality, or even if you get a bad cut, it's going to be average compared to everything else. So I don't know if there is such a thing as a bad Angus cut. I've never had one. I've had some that were pretty average, but for the most part, they're usually pretty spectacular if they're cooked right. Used to be easy to get here, and it's gotten more and more difficult. For example, I haven't seen any Angus in PriceSmart in half a year, and it used to be almost every time you go in. So things are different. I get Angus from Aldi in USA. It's good. Yeah, you really can't go wrong with Angus, because like I said, even if it's bad, it's good. So anyway, that's the story on that meat. Now, if you want Angus, there's a website for that also here in Colombia. Much more expensive. I think I've got a photo, and I do have the link for that. It's the Atlantic, tienda.atlantic.la. You can go back on the video here and look. So that's the website, and they don't have everything all the time. So when I looked in here, they had T-bone, and they had ribeye. They didn't have tomahawk. So they didn't have everything, but they had a number of things. And the thing is, maybe ribeye might be your favorite. Maybe New York strip is your favorite. You can't really go wrong with T-bone, because you get a little filet, ultra soft, and you get a New York strip. That's what a T-bone is. Did you find good beef in Ecuador? No. They don't have any sort of direction of having beef be a food. It's the most ungodly, foul tasting, tough as hell. It's the cheapest meat product you can get. Pork is more expensive. Chicken is more expensive. They can hardly give it away because it's so bad. Now, in the last year I was there, they started getting some vacuum packs from somewhere in like you could get a ribeye, for example, or a New York strip. However, they weren't very good cuts. I don't know where they were from. I think they were imported, but they weren't very good quality. They were kind of expensive. They were at least edible, where a lot of that stuff in Ecuador, I don't even consider it edible. You know, you're better off you don't want a steak there, but you might get like a rump roast and then slow cook it forever to, to kind of get it to fall apart. But no, it's that was a problem. I used to talk about it all the time. You couldn't even get decent hamburgers until they started importing hamburger meat from other countries. And then you started getting some pretty tasty hamburgers. But going back, well, I arrived there in 2014 and they were disgusting. And a couple years later, I did a series called Hamburger Wars, where I would go with somebody and we would go to different lots of hamburger places. And then we'd kind of pit one against the other. We'd grade them. And we found a couple that were pretty decent. But it wasn't, so it was steadily improving. But I don't know with COVID. I've been here since before COVID. Have you ever bought lamb here in Colombia? I see it jumbo frozen, never tried it. I haven't, but I probably should. I love a leg of lamb. If lamb is cooked properly and if it's young enough, it doesn't have that gamey mutton. I hate that. But if it's actually a decent lamb, next time I see it, I'll buy some and I'll comment on it. I love lamb. Jumbo has good American beef, pricey but good. But we don't have jumbo here. Exito is the closest. And like I say, Exito, and again, you have to remember Armenia. So even if we had a jumbo, it doesn't mean what we would stock here would be the same as in a larger city. Caruja and Manizales, yeah. Now that's different. In Manizales, it was easy. I just go down to the Caruja at the Cable Plaza and walk to the back on the right-hand side. And in there, they'd have Argentinian beef and Colombian beef. And lo and behold, there would be some Angus beef, and you could get ribeye or whatever. And I would take that back. And I got that every once in a while, a couple times, and it was awesome. Pricey, double the price of the local meat, but man, it's so good. Buying a meat raw or buying at a restaurant, which one is cheaper in Armenia? Well, buying raw is always going to be cheaper. It's always going to be cheaper. But the price, I can give you the price for a pound of the T-bone. The price per pound for the T-bone was 46,000 pesos, and the price per pound for the ribeye was 20,500 pesos, and the Angus, what was it? Oh, tomahawk or T-bone. I don't remember, but one of those. It's sold by the kilo, which is 2.2 pounds, and that was 155,000 for a 2.5 pounds. So 70 some thousand a pound. You can look on the websites. You can see, I might be getting that wrong. So, so bottom line is, it is available. I will let you know on the quality of the one. The other one I know would be good. I don't spend that much. The other one, it's beyond what I would spend, and certainly to experiment with, because as was mentioned, first time around, John, you mentioned that you didn't get your money back and they said they wouldn't ship to you. Are you sure it was that site? Or maybe I looked at that site months ago and I came to the conclusion they absolutely did not ship to Armenia. I looked at that site again, and the design was different. I went back and I looked in my history because I never delete it. And it was that site, but it's been redesigned. And now it's got what's up links everywhere. You can actually, you don't even have to go through their shopping cart. You can just click on what's up and order it directly with a human being, and they'll give you a payment link. So that wasn't there before. And so I got on, but the part of the website before, you could choose you could choose pick up at the store in Bogota. There was another thing you could click that were certain cities, and that was it. And Armenia wasn't a choice. Well, now there's a third area that you don't click, but if you fill it out, it overrides the other two. And part of the drop down is Candio and Armenia. And then you have to put in your actual address. That wasn't there before. So, John, if you haven't done it recently, I think it's something different. I didn't try it before because I couldn't figure out how to order it. So anyway, there's that. So hopefully you find that useful. And that's all I got to cover today. So if you have any questions on anything that I talked about today, any of the news, I don't want to go into Pijao, but here, let's make it official.
It's Q&A time. It's time to start asking your questions. Remember, 4 question marks first, then ask the question.
That was them. Maybe they changed. Yeah, it definitely is different from when I looked at it before. And I think I might even mentioned it on a video. Maybe that's how you got them. I don't remember, but right now I'm thinking, I think I did mention it. But it's very different now. If you go to that website, you'll see what I mean. And if they rip me off, yeah, well, I'll tell you about it. Fortunately, and they got packages like for $350,000, you can get a tomahawk and a T-bone and a ribeye and a picanha and some chorizos and different things. So in the U.S. you can order up meat and you get all this stuff. Personally, I think it's better just to order what you actually want. But do you eat fried chicken, Frisbee or KFC? Occasionally. The weird thing, I think Frisbee is just outstanding. It's amazing quality. However, in the U.S., I almost never ate KFC because Bojangles was around, and Bojangles was just amazing. I don't eat fried chicken that much, but I would say maybe once every month or two, I'll eat fried chicken. I really enjoy it. KFC has the best coleslaw, and that's my favorite thing. I actually like the coleslaw more than the chicken. Frisbee's coleslaw is more of a creamy type, and KFC is more of a clear, vinegary type, and I like that. But I have found here that the KFC fried chicken, I can't believe I'm going to say this, it's better than in the U.S., and I find it actually better than Frisbee. And I've said all along, Frisbee is some of the best in the world. And I said it because I believe that. But there's something about the KFC fried chicken here that's really good. And in the U.S., it's like, unless I was on a trip and with people in the car and that was the only place to stop. I mean, I would never go out of my way for it. But I don't know. So Frisbee versus KFC. I will say that I would, if given me the choice, I would take the KFC because I could also get the really good coleslaw. and I wouldn't lose anything in the in the chicken. And something else I've noticed too is you can get the original, which in the U.S. You just don't want to get the original because I mean you could wring it out because it's so greasy. And the original here's I've never found it like that. Over the course of the years I've been here, I've probably had half a dozen times, and I've never found it to be all that greasy. But anyway, when I heard that Colombia elected a communist president, I immediately thought of Hugo Chavez. Do you think Colombia will experience anything like Venezuela has? I don't think so. We're going to see in the next election. You know, I mentioned last week that, you know, they've uncovered some corruption, and it appears, and the investigation's ongoing, appears that, and they found suitcases full of money, and that money, one of his right-hand men who came out publicly because Petro insulted him publicly, and he's all kinds of pissed off because he's done a lot of the dirty work for Petro. He came out in a rage, and there was a recording of it that went viral, where he was just, because somebody had been murdered, and he was screaming about how he was treated, and he was saying, I could just come out with information that would bury him. And then as he was in his rage, and it was all MF and this and MF and that, only in Spanish, he says something about the money that was used to buy all those votes along the coast and like that. And, you know, if I talked about that, and then it was 2 days later, it was in the news that they found 6 suitcases full of money. So somebody was following up on that. So we'll see where that goes. But, you know, the world's most perfect elections sometimes are crooked. I agree. KFC chicken is much better here. Thank you. I appreciate that. I choke when I say that because I never would say that in the U.S. I could think of 4 places better. Popeyes is better, and Bojangles is better, and here I find that I actually like KFC, but that happens sometimes. Domino's Pizza is good here. Or in the U.S., I would never order Domino's Pizza. I like KFC, but no biscuits in Colombia or mashed potatoes. That's true. On the other hand, they're easy to make, both of them. How is the cost of EPS calculated? Mine was done by the insurance company, and they decided it, and they didn't use the actual calculation. They just decided what they were going to charge me. And so I was worried that when I go to get a visa renewal, that would come back to bite me, or I'd have to pay some lump sum. Maybe I wouldn't have the money. So I argued with them for about 3 months to increase it, and they just won't do it. And then I had to do a visa renewal, and it never came up. All they needed to know is that I had it. I think I had to produce like 6 months, showing the last 6 months that I had coverage. So, you know, I can't spend every day arguing. Somebody said, yeah, well, you're just trying to get cheap. And no, I spent a lot of time trying to get charged more because of my worry about, it was much more concerning about the visa. However, you can only beat your head against the wall so many times. They flat refused to increase it. I talked to a bunch of people. My wife's family lives in Armenia, but I'll spend a few days in Manizales also. What's the name of the barrio with the better restaurants? Milan. Awesome. How is the cost of EOS? What's EOS? Mentioned previous visa renewal might ask for backup. Is that something? Did you mean EPS? And is that what I just answered? I think that's it. Despite letting them, yeah, they didn't even care about my income when it came down to it because they just weren't doing the formula. I prefer ensalada de pollo at Frisbee's and KFC. Well, that's why there's different types. Different people like different things. I don't hate it at KFC, but I actually love it at Frisbee, but I love it at KFC. That's the kind I like. And if I make it myself, which I've never made it here, but in the U.S. I make my own coleslaw, and it's that type. Not cut quite so fine, but it's that type. Are many people still moving to Armenia from bigger cities, Bogota? Yeah, that's why you see all the new buildings. It's retirement. Armenia in Colombia is looked at primarily as a retirement destination because it's one of the least expensive places in Colombia, because it's so chill, so friendly, absolutely gorgeous, a ton of things to do. If you're going to retire, where do you want to retire? I mean, the air's clean. Traffic's getting bad, so they're working on that. But John, I agree. My Sura EPS is 1,006 or 106,000 pesos a month. Way too low. They refused to change mine. Now mine went up naturally. I don't remember what it started at, but I've gotten increases. Mine's at 145,000. I think I started at 110 maybe. And over the past few years, it's now up to 145,000. But the thing is, no matter which way you look at it, it's all pretty cheap. And it'll be interesting. I don't want to go into too much detail, but when Turtle comes on, he'll talk about, he's had 4 serious occurrences while he's lived here in Colombia. Heart issue, hospitalized, this broken bone. He'll go over them. And they were all good. They were all successful. And I think he said each one, the total cost him was 4,000 pesos for each one. He had to out of pocket $1. So, it's hard to beat. All right. We've run the hour. We're out of questions. So I think we're going to end it here. I want to thank you all. Keep writing to me. You're giving me good things to talk about, and I think that's important. Especially if 2 or 3 people write to me about the same thing, there's a pretty damn good chance I'll probably talk about that. So again, Juka, Jerry, thank you for the contribution. It's going in my piggy bank. I'm going to work towards that camera. Later this week, I will be going to Genova. If the week goes sour, I definitely will go the week after, because I realized that's the only place I haven't been to in Quindío. I've been everywhere else more than once, and I've never gone down there. I've been in the area. I just never kept going and went there, and I'd forgotten all about that. So I can't sit and say I've been everywhere in Quindío when I've never been there. So we're going to make a concerted effort to get down there, do some video, do some of my first drone footage while I'm down there, and it should be interesting. And Pijao, look out for that one. I probably should do a second one for the guy who founded this coffee. He's really got a very interesting life story. And plus, you go down there, he'll be the one serving you, most likely. All right, that's it. We're going to end it here. Thank you all. Again, thank you for the contributions. And thank you for being here, most of you, every week. And those of you that are a little shy about writing, get unshy, join the party. Feel free to write in the chat. That's what it's here for. Do I recommend Milan as the best barrio in Manizales? No, although maybe it would be a great place to live, but I say Milan is its restaurant area. It's the best restaurants for the most part you're going to find in that area. But it would be a great place to live too. The Cable Mall area is nice. I don't know, anything along 23 really is pretty damn good. All right, we're gonna go. Ciao.
Wow.